Hello folks, I'm back today to talk to you a little bit about my progress this week. As always, I'm doing a little progress update every Saturday. So that's my paint table update. I think I've finally decided on a name. My paint table update. I'm a little bit more than halfway through this box set here, or this piece of the box set, this little container inside. There were a lot of really interesting characters this week. Let's take a look. I've been doing the best I can to kind of follow the artwork on the cards and stuff. Now, there aren't always a lot of cards that are really super usable as far as their artwork. Like, the artwork's great on everything that I'm finding, but some of it's not good enough to kind of decide what color something is. And I found, I was real lucky that the Witcher's been around a long time in a lot of different formats, including toys and the video games, of course. So there's a lot of both fan art and other sources for this material, as far as like referencing it and seeing what things really look like. There are a couple of standouts this week that I spent a little bit of extra time on, like Dagon, the water monster. I really liked that model, and I thought he came out pretty good. And that creature with the fire rock monster. I should probably have their cards out so I can reference their names. But that fiery rock monster I thought was really neat and came out cool. I also decided to paint the horse that was standing on top of the building, which is actually one of the scenarios that pops up in The Witcher when you're going on I think it's one of the woodland adventure or something like that. You encounter that horse on the roof. I'm not sure where that comes from as far as like the books and stuff, or that reference card basically spells out, what happened. But just another fun little expansion. It's kind of a real easy single expansion you can add. As always, these were mostly painted with contrast paints. I do go in with traditional acrylic paints, and I use a mixture of the brand contrast paints, which I sometimes universally refer to the speed paints as contrast paints also. But I use the Army Painter speed paints and the Games Workshop contrast paints all at the same time, and for different aspects depending on the color or the way the paint reacts to things. And then a lot of times I'll go back in with acrylic paints for highlights or something like that if I want to bring out an area. A lot of times the contrast paints do a really good job, but some of the colors really end up looking kind of dark and dim, and they don't show a lot of detail like I'd like. So it is sometimes necessary to go back in, at least with one aspect of that color, and highlight it back out a little bit. It really doesn't add a lot of time to it, and basically the equivalent of kind of dry brushing some detail in. But yeah, I thought these came out really good. So far I've been really impressed with the Witcher models. The assembly seems pretty much on point. They're not like, I've seen more detailed models, but I like the way these seem to invoke movement. They have a lot of dynamics in them, and they don't seem quite as static. And of course, the creatures themselves are real diverse and have a lot of different aspects to them. They're not one of them seems very similar to the other one. But while we're down here, why don't we take a quick look at my paint table, and I'll show you what I've got going on. I've been using a variety of these painting handles. I think that these are really helpful. I actually did a really early video on this channel talking about picking some of these up. I got some up from a Kickstarter. Well, I think both of these actually came on Kickstarter. This one's been molded. This one is obviously 3D printed. Probably one of the earlier ones. And I just got this off Amazon for not very much. I'm not as huge a fan of this because the base is so narrow that it falls over very easily. Whereas these things, at least I have to encourage them a little bit. Here I got some stuff primed and ready to go. I've just been priming them up with this Ghost Gray, which is really similar to the starting color. I never primed the bottom, so yeah. It's similar, but it's nice. It's not too vibrant. I've done the white primer also, but it's a little bit too bright for most of these things. Of course, I've got these here. These are just for reference, for color reference and stuff when I go to paint these things. Inside of these drawers, I've got some yet even more colors of paint. These are my either ones I've got duplicates of for whatever reason, or things that I use less often. Sometimes I'll pull in here, and most of these are the regular acrylic paints. In other drawers, I've got projects that I haven't finished. I've got some, of course, miniatures everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's more miniatures. More miniatures to paint. It's a lot of work. I've got my little Games Workshop water cup. That's actually a really good cup. I like this bowed out at the end so it doesn't tip over so easy. And here are more miniatures to paint, more future projects and little side projects that I've got. And backup contrast paint. I use these are broken token paint racks. Of course, these are made for these to actually go down like this, but contrast paint doesn't store very well that way, or speed paint doesn't store very well that way, so I've got them all turned up. In fact, I've done that with these regular bottles as well, because I would just end up with a whole bunch of this stuff caked up into the lid. And of course, I've got way more paint than I've got places to put it, but I do the best I can to keep everything organized. Down below, I've got drawers for various different things, different modeling things, lots of stuff for basing and stuff like that. But I spend a lot of time here in my little painting cage, painting all this stuff, and it's nice to have a dedicated space to do this kind of work. I used to do a lot of this on a tray. You can't have nearly the paint selection that you do when you paint off a tray or something. And at any point, I can, sit here in the living room with the wife and watch TV or hang out, sort of hang out with her while I'm enjoying my living room. One thing I need to work on is my my overflow area over here, which is a complete mess. This is just a whole bunch of projects and stuff that I haven't gotten to, like the rest of this Witcher thing, the rest of this Dungeons and Lasers. That's all that's left from the Encounters box set. All those box sets, I just have this little bit left to go before it's all done. And some other miscellaneous little projects and stuff that have going on. I have this here, when I paint my miniatures, especially if it's going to be a while before I photograph them, I have this little gallery thing that I can put them in. This allows me to store my minis and look at them a little bit more, but also kind of keep the dust off of them until they're ready to be put somewhere else. And over here's my fall-off table. This is where I store the things I'm about to paint, or more projects that are incoming and ready to go, and some equipment and other things. I really need to do better about keeping this space clean. I'd like to make some more areas underneath here to store stuff like this, but sometimes if you file this stuff away too far, you'll never get to it. So I've got my Witcher stuff out here ready. I've got what's left of the Dungeons and Lasers. That's all I got left of the Dungeons and Lasers stuff. I've already done videos on all of those painting projects. Be sure to check them out. And I got some other cool stuff that, like this Hellboy thing Owen made for me, and a guillotine. It's just miscellaneous stuff here, and projects that I'm about to work on. But if you're going to paint a lot of miniatures, it's a great idea to have a dedicated painting area. A place that's already ready, set to work. It's a purposeful area where you can sit down and immediately get going on your models. You're not pulling out paints. You're not doing other stuff. You just sit down. All you got to do is kind of clean up a little bit after you do your projects. Usually after I paint a bunch of these, there's paints everywhere. I just throw them back in the tray. I used to keep them really, really organized. Now I'm just kind of like putting them back as fast as I can. And then I pull out my paper from under here. I roll it up. and I shoot the picture. So this is where I photograph my minis when they're done. I got started shooting on this piece of paper because it just makes for a really clean photograph of the miniatures. And then a lot of times I'll pull the camera over and videotape them here as well. And that's it, just a quick look at my paint table where I do all this work. And folks, that's all I got for you this week. If you'd like to see more of my Paint Table Saturday videos, there's a link right there. And there's a link right here for a subscription. I'd love to see you again. Until next time, enjoy your games, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.